Yo, what it do, baby? It's your boy Dynamic, and today I got some news for you guys concerning the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. And I guess I'm gonna go with the PlayStation 4 first because I haven't talked much about it yet, but I'm gonna talk about it now. So anyways, PlayStation fans have flocked to Twitter lately to protest the DRM. If you guys don't know what DRM means, it means digital rights management. Basically, what I'm talking about is Sony putting some sort of restriction on used games or charging a special fee in order for you to play those games. And the reason that this has happened, that people are going to Twitter to complain to Sony about the used game mechanism or whatever, is because Jeff Keighley, I don't know if you guys know who he is, but he works for Game Trailers. He reported that Sony was planning to use some form of DRM to control or limit access to used games, meaning that either they're completely going to be blocked or Sony is considering charging some fee for used games. Now, this doesn't impact me as much, and I would think a small percentage of you guys, this doesn't impact you either, because I rarely buy used games. Mostly I buy new games because the games that I buy are either have some form of multiplayer in them, something that extends the life of the game tremendously. For instance, Call of Duty or Halo, games like that. Those are the games I like to buy because the multiplayer extends the life immeasurably, possibly for years. So I don't like buying those campaign games. To me, those games are dead in my mind. I don't like buying those games. I barely buy them used also, with a few exceptions. But it's not going to affect me as much as people that play a lot of single-player games, a lot of story-driven games, and they don't like buying the game right away because the games are too expensive at $60 or 50, I think it's 50 euros. I'm not sure. But the games might be a little bit too expensive to buy a brand new game that's not going to have a lot of replayability. So if Sony decides to charge a fee like Microsoft is going to do, then that's basically taking away the incentive of buying a used game, and you are forced to buy a new game. In my opinion, this is going to bring down sales of new games because some people buy new games expecting to sell them later on anyways for maybe half the price. And now that you buy a game and you might not even be able to sell it, then there might be no incentive for you to buy a game. If you're borderline, let's say you were thinking about buying BioShock Infinite, but you're not convinced since the game is not going to give you as much replayability as a multiplayer game. But let's say you're on the fence. If you have the option to sell the game later, maybe for half the price or a little bit more than half the price or whatever you can get, then you have a higher probability of buying the game because you know not all your money is going to be wasted and you're going to be able to sell it on later. But if you can't find someone to sell it to, because there is no point of selling used games if they put a fee when you actually activate that game online on the next gen systems, then you might not buy the game at all because you won't have a chance to resell it because nobody will buy it. So I think that that's a feature that's going to limit game sales, and Sony and Microsoft have to be a little aware of that. And I just hope, for Sony's sake, I hope Sony, because I'm obviously at this point a little bit more of an Xbox fan, even though I'm really going to have an open mind to what console I'm going to buy next. But I really think Sony should not limit used games at all, because they would have a tremendous advantage over Microsoft if they actually did that. I also have to say that right now, gaming companies, especially gaming console manufacturers such as Sony and Microsoft, maybe even Nintendo a little bit, but not to the same degree, these guys are seeming like the bad guys right now. They seem like the bad guys. They seem that they're just money hungry and they don't care at all about the consumer. They are just focused on sucking the life out of the system as much as possible. And it's kind of getting a little bit tired. I know companies have to make money, but sometimes you want to give your customers something that they should feel good about and feel happy about. And it seems like it's not coming out in this next generation. Anyways, if you guys want to voice your opinion and add more power through Twitter, use the hashtags PS4 no DRM and PS4 use games, and make sure to voice your opinion, guys. And moving on to the next news, I want to talk a little bit about the Xbox One specs. If you guys don't know, the Xbox One is using an APU, which is an accelerated processing unit. It's basically like a motherboard where everything is attached already. The motherboard, the CPU, and the graphic card are basically attached into one, and they're not separate items as you would expect in regular computers. And basically, the Xbox One is going to use 3 different operating systems. I don't know how slow this might make the system. Hopefully not. I hope Microsoft knows what they're doing. But the CPU is somewhere to be clocked. It's probably going to be clocked between 1.5 and 2 gigahertz. And it might seem like it's old technology. 2 gigahertz, most computers surpass that. But I think the CPU is about the efficiency. It's not about the power output anymore. And the graphics card is going to be around 1 gigahertz. It's probably going to be around what you would expect a little bit above average computer to have. So right now, at least to me, it seems like the PlayStation 4 is going to have a small advantage on the Xbox in terms of CPU power and specs. But the PlayStation 3 had the same thing, and it wasn't as profound a difference. It really didn't make that much difference in the end. But a representative over at Microsoft said this in a statement. He said, and this is the exact quote, "We're provisioning for developers for every physical Xbox One we build. We're provisioning the CPU and storage equivalent of 3 Xbox Ones on the cloud. We're doing that flat out so that any game developer can assume that there's roughly 3 times the resources immediately available to their game, so they can build bigger, persistent levels that are more inclusive for players." So they're basically saying that the cloud, which is internet connection and server-based things, that is going to increase the processing power of the Xbox One and make it somehow 3 times as powerful than it is physically. I somehow doubt that, since internet connections have limitations and are nowhere close to be as fast as gaming consoles right now. In fact, it's not even close. Anyways, I hope you guys liked this video. And as always, it's your boy Dynamic bringing you some news. And as always, peace out, players. Oh my god.